Oh, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. That was weird. I got no dang idea what the hell happened there. Dag nabbit. You can't silence a true you can't silence a true patriot. I'm back, and I just wanted to say that I love Israel, and I was wrong to ever say anything that was even remotely mean about the state of Israel. I was wrong. Israel has a right to defend itself. The International Criminal Court should have exclusively prosecuted the Hamas criminal terrorists. Lindsey Graham is certainly not a gay man. Okay, you understand me? He is a straight man. Straight as an arrow. And my rock. And Israel's greatest defender of all time. All right. Let's move on. Let's get back to this Netanyahu under pressure. And then, dude, there's so much news today. It's fucking crazy. We still haven't done P. Diddy. We still haven't done Morehouse.
In the Middle East about Israel's plans for Gaza. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under pressure from the U.S. and members of his own cabinet to explain what will happen after the war against Hamas that has flattened much of the territory. MTS Tayyab is in East Jerusalem. MTS, good morning.
Nate, good morning to you. Well, thousands of Israelis are currently marching their way here to Jerusalem to call for a deal for the release of all the hostages still in Gaza and for an end to the war. The rally comes as bitter divisions in Israel's three-member war cabinet spill out into the open.
What do you mean we back? Are people for real? Dude, I swear to God, you went down like I go down at the top of the hour ad. I don't even want to, like, I mean, I'm going to run the top of the hour ad break right now regardless, but like, I went from almost 30K. I effed. I went from fucking 30K to 14K. Literally. The stream crashed. It restarted. And it never actually signaled that I was online for people who are watching. I absolutely fucking hate this goddamn platform, dude. I hate Twitch so fucking much. Like, it's ridiculous. Why the fuck do I actually do my goddamn job here? What am I doing? What am I doing? Actually, what am I doing? It's so fucking ridiculous. Like, it doesn't notify the viewers that the stream is live again. So people are just, it doesn't even refresh automatically for the viewers. It literally eliminated the stream and then restarted it on the server side. I fucking hate this shit so much. Oh, it's most likely not even fucking Twitch's. The parts that I'm annoyed with respect to Twitch is that it doesn't have a better process of like when stream goes offline like this. Like there's no good way of like managing it. Multi-millionaire issues, I'd hate to be you. Is on with 10K, yikes. It's just that like when this kind of stuff happens, Twitch has no way of like keeping the stream going, and we'll just like hard cut it. And when the stream goes back on, it hard cuts it, restarts it, and it doesn't automatically refresh. It's very fucking annoying. Let's continue.
Benny Gantz is threatening to walk out unless there's a plan to hand over post-war control of Gaza from Israel to what's being described as another acceptable power. A plan Yoav Gallant, who's also part of the war cabinet, agrees with. Now, in response, Netanyahu defiantly insisted Israel will maintain open-ended security. But if his partners do walk out, he could then have to rely on the far-right extremist parties in his government who are calling for the reoccupation of Gaza and the construction of Israeli settlements there. Now, all of this political unrest comes as U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met yesterday with Netanyahu following talks in Saudi Arabia. Sullivan urged Netanyahu to connect the future of Gaza to a, quote, political strategy, including the potential of a hugely consequential deal that would see the normalization between Saudi and Israel as part of a commitment to pursuing a two-state solution for Israel and the Palestinians, something the Biden administration says is key to lasting peace in the region. Now, further complicating things, we're learning this morning that the International Criminal Court in The Hague are seeking arrest warrants for Hamas leader and October 7th attack mastermind Yahya Sinwar, as well for Prime Minister Netanyahu, both on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Gail.
A lot of information there. Thank you very much, MTS Tayeb, reporting from East Jerusalem.
Something very unusual is happening in Israel. Senior military officials have begun voicing criticism of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's conduct of the war in Gaza. Israeli media has been reporting on a weekend security meeting at which the Chief of Staff of the Israel Defense Forces, General Herzi Halevi, criticized Netanyahu's lack of a clear strategy, pointing out that the Israeli military had re-entered northern Gaza, an area it claimed to have cleared in January. He warned that unless there was a plan to set up some kind of
What's your response to these rich kids out here acting like they have it tough in life? I don't know what you're referencing. This is incredibly fucking vague.
Hamas government in these areas, the IDF would have to keep repeating these kinds of operations endlessly. Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, has gone further, publicly criticizing the prime minister, pointing out that the day after Hamas will only be achieved by actors who replace Hamas, and declaring that he would not permit Israel to try to govern Gaza directly. The New York Times reported on others within the Israeli military making similar criticisms. As Anshel Pfeffer writes in Haaretz, these briefings to the press have been synchronized.
Bro, the fact that they did not have a sustainable long-term plan when they entered the Gaza Strip, and it has only taken 8 months to finally be like, oh, what are we going to do after we leave? Once again, in my opinion, shows that every single person involved in the war cabinet and every single general who is now chirping about the situation simply was operating with one singular genocidal interest. Is it effing again?
As part as what can only be a coordinated briefing against the prime minister. The reason for these extraordinary dissents at a time of war is that Israeli officials have begun to realize what American officials have been warning them about for months, that without a strategy to create stable governance in Gaza, they will face a continuing insurgency, just as the U.S. did in Afghanistan and Iraq. There is evidence it is already happening. Israeli forces have been forced back into Jabalia twice, and they have returned 3 times to Zaytun. Their recent and controversial raid on the Al-Shifa hospital was the second effort, showing that their initial success was not lasting. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken noted last Sunday,
we've seen in areas that Israel has cleared, in the north, even in Khan Yunis, Hamas coming back.
much has been written about whether the Israeli military is being careful in its concern for civilian casualties when conducting its attacks in Gaza. But the larger point has to do with its counterinsurgency strategy itself. In America's only successful counterinsurgency campaign in recent memory, the surge in Iraq, its strategy was designed to protect the civilian population, isolate the insurgents, and then crush them. To that end, General David Petraeus worked tirelessly with Iraq's Sunnis, the community spawning the insurgency, to win them over, give them a stake in Iraq's government, and thus isolate the insurgents and the militias. He then used lethal force against those militias. This is almost the inverse of Israel's strategy, which has been first and foremost to go after Hamas guns blazing, with very little regard for winning the hearts and minds of Gaza's civilian population. Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Occupying forces always care about winning the hearts and minds, totally, just like the Americans did.
Netanyahu's argument against post-war plans and operations is that the war isn't over. And in his words, there is no alternative to military.
I'm confused. Like, are there people who just think that I'm still offline or something? What's happening? Like, what the fuck is going on? Oh my God.
Victory. The attempt to bypass it with this or that claim is simply detached from reality. Bibi has repeatedly said that he would continue the war until he achieves total victory, by which he presumably means either a surrender by Hamas or its total eradication. The Biden administration has from early on in the war believed that Bibi's strategy was flawed because there was no way to defeat Hamas militarily without a political strategy to isolate it and offer an alternative that had some credibility and legitimacy. That was why the Biden administration wanted to begin discussions with the Palestinian Authority and a group of Arab states like Egypt and Saudi Arabia to make plans for reconstruction and governance in a non-Hamas Gaza. Netanyahu has refused to consider any such plans. Bibi Netanyahu refuses to talk about the post-war because he knows that his own post-war future is bleak. Many Israelis continue to hold him responsible for the policies that led to the October 7th attack. Were new elections to be called, he would likely lose office and then face an ongoing prosecution as well as potential inquiries about the failures that led to October 7th. All of this can be pushed off as long as he insists on a Hamas surrender, which he will not get, but which will keep the war going on indefinitely. It is a strategy not designed to secure Israel's future, but rather his own. Go to cnn.com/Fareed for a link to my Washington.
The war in Gaza